everyone, my name is Lauren from Crack the DAT, and welcome to episode number 10 of Pre-Dental Talk. In today's episode, I'll be joined by a first-year dental student at the Harvard School of Dental Medicine, Bart Photo. Bart is a recipient of the National Health Service Corps Scholarship, or the NHSC Scholarship, which covers tuition plus a stipend for all 4 years of dental school. In this episode, we'll be talking about Bart's experience applying for the scholarship, what costs the scholarship covers, what his service obligations will be after he graduates, and more. I'm here with Bart Voto. Bart, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Bart. I am a first-year dental student at the Harvard School of Dental Medicine. I graduated in May of 2021 with a degree in biochemistry from Hobart and William Smith Colleges in upstate New York. I'm really excited to be here and speak with you all today.
Awesome, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So Bart is a recipient of the NHSC Scholarship. So Bart, I'll let you go ahead and explain what that is.
Yeah, so the NHSC, the National Health Service Corps Scholarship, is a federally funded program that's offered by the Health Resource and Services Administration, I think that's it, of the U.S. Department of Health. And pretty much it's a scholarship meant for people who are going into the health professions that have an interest in working in public health and in health professional shortage areas.
Awesome. So how did you find out about the scholarship initially?
Yeah, so initially there's not really a lot of information out there about this scholarship. At first I was kind of just looking at ways that I could pay for dental school because it's really expensive, and mostly what I was finding was information about the military scholarship. But there weren't really many other options. But I think just looking through YouTube videos or online forums, I ran into this. I ran into the NHSC scholarship and read a little bit more about this. And yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of first stumbled upon it. And then after doing a lot of research, I started to understand a little bit more about what it involved, how you could apply for it, and like who it was really meant for.
So when did you apply for the scholarship, and then when did you find out that you were a recipient?
Yeah, so I applied in this past winter. So the applications open up in I think around February, and the application is due at sometime around May. So I was applying the spring before I enrolled into dental school. So I was still in college at the time, and I had already been accepted into dental school because one of the requirements for the scholarship is that you have proof of full-time enrollment into a US accredited dental, medical, or nurse practitioner school. So I worked on the application for about 3 months, submitted it in May. And it's not like applying to dental school where it's a rolling admissions, where it benefits you to apply early on. There's just a hard deadline, and you just have to have your application submitted by that deadline. And then they evaluate everybody together. And I didn't find out about receiving the scholarship until about 1 month into dental school. I found out in the very beginning of September, and I started dental school in the beginning of August. So I did kind of go into dental school not really knowing what the future was going to hold in terms of me taking out loans or getting the scholarship, but it ended up working out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what does the scholarship cover?
So the scholarship, it covers full tuition. So you get all of your expenses paid for. And on top of getting your tuition paid, you get a monthly stipend for living expenses. And I think it's somewhere around $1,400 per month prior to taxes getting taken out. So you get that payment every single month, and that's supposed to go and help for housing, food, other living expenses you might have. And then on top of that, they also give you an annual, another annual stipend, which is going to cover other like educational costs, such as a laptop or just equipment that you might need in clinic, instruments. I know dental school has a lot of like materials and instruments that you need to use over the course of 4 years. So essentially your school will submit like a checklist and pretty much a budget to the NHSC, and you will get that money once a year, depending on how much your school is making you pay.
Right. So what was that like for you choosing a dental school? Because I know you mentioned that you didn't find out about the scholarship until about a month into starting school. So what was that like for you choosing a school but not yet knowing if you would be getting this full scholarship?
Yeah, definitely, like, price is a really big consideration when it comes to choosing a dental school. And it was quite difficult for me because I was between going in state or maybe a cheaper school as opposed to going to like a private institution like HSDM. But at the end of the day, before knowing that I was going to get this scholarship, I wanted to go somewhere where I thought I would get the best overall experience, be it academic, clinical, and just I wanted to be somewhere where I knew I'd be happy and would like to spend my years while I'm in school. Because right, you want to enjoy your life as well. Dental
Right.
school is already hard enough as it is. So I really saw myself being in Boston, and I really was excited about all the opportunities that HSDM could offer. So that's why I kind of decided not to think too much about the cost of attendance, the tuition, because I knew at the end of the day, like, you can't really put a price on happiness and feeling like you belong somewhere. And I really felt that HSDM was somewhere that I saw myself for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good advice. And it worked out amazingly. So going back a little bit to the application process, can you talk us through a little bit about what the application consists of, and what you were required to submit?
So the application in itself is kind of similar to the application process for dental school. So I'm just trying to pull up a list of everything that you need to apply. But just off the top of my head, I had to submit 3 essays, and they weren't very long. They were about 500 words each. And I think year to year, the essays are pretty consistent. So you can find the essays from previous years. There's like an application packet, and you could read through that and find the essay questions on there. And they pretty much are just asking you to talk about why you want to like pursue a health profession in underserved areas, and talk about some experiences that you've had with working with these populations. So on top of the 3 essays, you also need 2 letters of recommendation, one being from a college professor or someone who knows you well. And then they also require you to have a letter of recommendation from someone who works in the community health or rural health setting. So that's where it's really helpful to kind of build a strong relationship with someone who works in underserved areas or works in public health, because they would kind of be able to attest for your passion and attest for why you might be a good fit for the scholarship, because they're really looking for people who are dedicated and willing to spend pretty much a career in medically underserved areas. And then on top of the essays and the letter of recommendation, you also had to submit a resume or a CV. And that's pretty much it, I believe, for everything that I had to submit for it. There was no interview involved. So it was pretty much dependent on those 3 essays. So you want to make sure those are as solid as you can make them, because that's pretty much what they're going to be basing their decision off of.
What experience did you have working with underserved groups?
Yeah, so I had 2 major experiences working like in rural health and like medically underserved areas. I worked with an organization called Remote Area Medical. It's called RAM for short. And pretty much it's a nonprofit organization that brings free medical, dental, and vision care to remote and underserved areas in the United States. And the 2 times that I volunteered with RAM, I was down in Appalachia, Virginia, and I worked in this really small town called Wise, which is in like the western part of Virginia, very rural area. And there is where I kind of first saw the disparity of not only like medical, but like dental care in the United States. This was like a 3-day health clinic, and people were waiting in line, camping out like in the parking lot 3 days in advance, because for many of these people, this clinic was their one opportunity every single year to get the care that they desire, the care that they deserved and needed, really. And there were a lot of procedures that I thought were kind of basic procedures like fillings or even cleanings. But for a lot of these people, that type of work, seeing a dentist even, was a luxury that they didn't have access to. And that kind of really motivated me to use the skills that I eventually obtained one day as a dentist to benefit those who need it the most, for the people who really don't have access to dental care, especially with the disparity between dental access not being covered under medical insurance. A lot of people kind of push dentistry to the back burner and kind of just want to get their teeth taken out whenever they can, just so they don't have to worry about getting infections later on. But I think there's definitely a need for dental professionals, specifically in these more rural areas, to kind of help educate and prevent infection and caries and all that other stuff.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds to me that that is essentially what the scholarship is all about. So can you talk a little bit about what the service obligation is after you finish dental school? How long will you be serving, and sort of what will that service look like?
I opted to have all 4 years of tuition covered because I got the scholarship going into dental school. So you can kind of choose how many years you want to have the scholarship for, whether that be 2, 3, 4. And for each year that you have the scholarship and each year that they're paying for school, you have to serve 1 year in return. The only kind of caveat there is that you have to serve a minimum of 2 years. So if you only get 1 year covered, you still have to serve 2 years. So after I graduate, I'm committing to working 4 years in what they call it, like a health professional shortage area. And the NHSC pretty much gives every geographical like region in the United States a health profession grading based off of saturation of medical professionals. And you essentially just have to work in an approved site in any one of those shortage areas. And the criteria for that kind of changes year to year. So it's going to depend. Exactly where I end up is going to depend what the numbers are looking like when I graduate. But the great thing about this is that you get to choose where you want to go. It's very flexible. You're essentially tasked with finding your own job, and they have people who help you look for positions in these various areas. But you really get to choose like where in the country you want to work, what type of environment. It doesn't necessarily even have to be rural health. Like I know there are health professional shortage sites in like inner cities, and so you can really have the flexibility of kind of being close to your family, being close to your friends, or whatever kind of criteria you have for where you want to work eventually. So I thought that was a really big plus of this scholarship. So I'll serve for 4 years, and my plan right now is to serve straight out of dental school.
Are you able to defer the service? Do you know?
In terms of like specializing, or
so if you don't want to start your service right away, I know you said you're planning to go straight through, but are you able to delay that?
Right. I think if you're not enrolling in like a residency program, I think you have to serve right out of school. I don't think there's any way to defer it, at least to my knowledge.
Got it. And how does that work if someone is interested in specializing? How does that fit into the service obligation?
This scholarship really is for people who are interested in primary care. So for dentistry specifically, that's general dentistry, pediatrics, geriatrics. So I believe you are allowed to go to approved residency programs, and I think that includes pediatrics, like an AEGD or a GPR. But anything other than that, I don't believe they allow straight out of graduating dental school, because this is for people who want to work in primary care, and that's mostly general dentistry and not the more like specialized procedures.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And then just to wrap things up, what advice do you have for someone who's interested in applying for NHSC?
So I think it's really important to show that you're committed to working in underserved or rural health areas. So definitely having experience working in these types of communities and showing like an early interest in committing to having a professional life within these areas will definitely help you stand out. I think like the fact that I went to RAM for 2 different summers and spent some time there setting up the clinics and working in the clinics definitely showed my commitment to being in these areas. Just because you're able to write about these experiences in your essays and really talk about like personal moments that impacted you while you were there. And these are really only experiences that you can get by experience, like by seeing it firsthand. And then other than that, this kind of ties in hand with being involved in these communities is having a good relationship with leaders in those communities, whether it be a public health official or someone who runs a particular organization. Like when I started working for Remote Area Medical, I became really close with one of the individuals who was kind of organizing these clinics in these areas every single year. And I got to have a really great relationship with her. And she lives in the town Wise, Virginia, which is where I would go to volunteer. So seeing her year after year and having her see me like have an active role within these clinics and in these communities, I think really made me stand out because she was able to personally attest to kind of my passion or why she thinks that I would be a good fit to be a health professional in more rural area.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Bart. Thank you for sharing your story to getting the NHSC scholarship. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and congrats again.
Thank you.